Hey everybody, I'm joined here today with Chuck Carroll. He's also known as the weight loss champion, I believe, right?
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I love that name. Um, how much weight did you lose?
Oh, about 280 pounds all told. Yeah.
Wow, that's almost doubled me. That's very impressive. I want people to hear your story because it's incredible. You've kept it off now for, I believe, 10 years. And I wonder if you can go back to how life was before you lost the weight. That you
Oh,
were
yeah.
obese.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about that yesterday when I was getting a little bit of exercise, and I was like, it's been so long. I still identify with that person who was so overweight, but at the same time, I kind of don't. Like I'm kind of reborn into this new body, and I think I'm like finally, after all this time, really comfortable with it. And there's been enough distance between version 1.0 and version 2.0 where we are today that I'm like, I don't even know if I would slide back into that old body, like if I would even recognize it anymore. But I can tell you what life is like. I can absolutely tell you what it was like. It was weird, man. Part of me was very much thinking that I needed to be that size because of my career. As I got into my 20s, working in radio, I had one of those big over the top personalities and worked at big 100.3, a radio station here in the Washington, D.C. area. So, of course, I needed to be Big Chuck. And that was my excuse to go, load up on fast food and eat 10,000 calories every day.
Yeah,
And it
right.
just, I mean, that's the biggest takeaway, honestly, is looking back on that, just seizing on every little excuse I could possibly come up with to continue justifying my eating habits. That was the biggest thing, is like, give me another reason today not to change just so I can continue down that path. That is something that honestly I haven't spoken a whole lot about, but that's the way that my mind worked at the time, to just keep justifying being that size and
Right.
fueling those unhealthy habits.
So what was it ultimately that made you change? What was it? Was it a medical issue or something?
Oh man, there so there's a whole bunch of things. I'm sure it was the same for you. There's no one thing I think that makes people change by and large, unless it's a just a traumatic event. But for me, it was kind of the culmination of a lot of things. There's um, From a health standpoint, I was in my mid 20s and had gotten so large, I was at the point where I couldn't walk more than 10 or 15 feet without having to stop because I would get this tightness in my chest. And I'm not talking about just a little bit, I'm talking like severe. You hear that euphemism about an elephant sitting on your chest. That's what it felt like to me. And I would just start sweating profusely, could not breathe. And that was really scary.
Wow. Yeah.
That's kind of what planted the seed for me. Like, man, if I don't make these changes, I may not even see 30. But beyond that, there was a whole lot of other things that went into it as well, including, some emotional things. Dating this girl who was not overweight. And I thought that I had hit the jackpot because I was, just so in love with her. And I thought she was so attractive. And she absolutely was. But the problem was, we dated for a year and a half, and nearly on an everyday basis, she begged me not to tell our friends, tell our family, tell anyone that we were dating. She didn't even tell her family. She didn't even tell her closest friends that we were dating for many, many months. And
Sad.
the only thing that I could come up with is because she was ashamed to be dating somebody who was 400 pounds, and so that was like a little emotional dagger every single day. And I settled for that because I thought at the time that was what I deserved, or that was the best that I could possibly get. So I just went with it. And we had this covert romance. Um, there was a flight to San Francisco across country where I couldn't fit into the seat. And you hear this story told by a lot of people who are
Yeah.
overweight, how embarrassing it can be. needing to ask for that seatbelt extender and seeing everybody kind of stare at you as you come on the plane and
I
just
know
start
that feeling.
praying like, God, I hope this guy doesn't sit next to me. And then when you finally reach that seat and you sit down and you try your hardest to buckle in and it's just not happening. So you have to get up and go to the front of the plane and ask for a seatbelt extender and then walk back to your seat. I always sat in the back of the plane because I didn't want to be around anybody. I figured I had the best chance to be by myself in the rear, and just having to walk all the way back carrying that seatbelt extender, being 400 pounds. I mean, that was humiliating. It was heartbreaking, and it was humiliating.
It is very
Um,
humiliating.
yeah, and then just kind of I, coming to the realization that I was an addict. And a lot of people are addicted to drugs. A lot of people are addicted to alcohol. A lot of people are addicted to caffeine, cigarettes, whatever the vice may be. But me, I was addicted to food in
Yeah.
the worst way.
Yep.
I went to Taco Bell every single day, sometimes twice a day for years because I couldn't get enough of that stuff. And one of the things that really hurt more than anything when I was still overweight was the time that I pulled up to the order board there, and the woman on the other end, she didn't tell me, can I take your order? She didn't say, hey, it's $20. Good to see you again, Chuck. Because they knew me. They knew my car. Like when they saw it,
Right.
they were like, okay, he's going to order the same thing. You totals $20. Please drive around. She didn't say any of that. What I heard from the speaker box that day was, you eat too much.
Wow.
And so to hear that from someone who works in a fast food restaurant, like that was really, really a big old kick in the
Yeah, that
gut.
had to be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That one almost brought me to tears, man.
Yeah.
So when you add all of that stuff up, I mean, those were really the big things that got me to the breaking
Definitely.
point.
Now, did you go to the doctor at that time? Because for me, I avoided the doctor for years. I'm just wondering if you were the same way.
Oh man, I definitely went to the doctor. I didn't avoid it. It kind of became a game for me. Like how thick could I make my medical file? And I mean, it got to be like an encyclopedia kind of thick. They have this little chart where it's got about 200 different conditions on there that they check off the one that they think that you have that day. And man, it was my game. It was my goal in life for years to make sure that every one of those boxes was checked off. And plus, the other thing was, I was getting chronic sinus infections. Like I was always sick. I would catch one. I would get better after a course of antibiotics. The next month, I was right back in the doctor's office
Yep.
with the same kind of conditions, man. And I was a frequent flyer there just as much as I was at Taco Bell.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't avoid it at all.
Did you get hypertension or pre-diabetes or?
Oh yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, I was put on high blood pressure medication when I was still in middle school. Um,
Wow.
Check that. I was a sophomore in high school. And I will never forget that day because the doctor also that day told me if I didn't change my ways, I was going to die. Now, mind you, I was only 14 or 15 at the time. So imagine saying that to a young teenager like that. As a teenager, you think that you're immortal. You think that you have this air of invincibility about you. And so for the doctor not only to tell you that you're going to die, but then to take this medication that you had only heard of, your grandparents taking, like what is happening? Like what kind of a quack doctor am I going to right now? I was so angry that day, but my blood pressure was completely out of control.
Right.
It was the 180 over 90 or 100. I mean, it was just through the roof kind of high.
Yep. Yep.
And like knowing what I do now, that's nothing to, take lightly. I mean, you have to address that. No wonder she put me on that medication at such a young age, but that was not
You
enough to
brought
get me
back
to
a
change my
memory for me
habits.
when I was in high school. In health class, we were learning about hypertension, and the teacher went around checking some blood pressures of the students. And I remember she was worried about mine because it was like 140 over 80 or something.
Mm.
really high for teenager.
Yeah.
And I didn't do anything about it. I didn't go to the doctors, but even as a teen, I could relate because I wasn't on meds, but it starts that young when you're. I wasn't completely obese back then. I was overweight, but I just remind me of that story. I haven't thought about that in years.
Yeah, man. It's funny, like everybody who's had a journey has these memories that flash back, and they you know they're just indelibly just burned into their mind, whether they're at the forefront or not. It's like you can be whisked right back there, and the memory is so crystal clear because it sticks with you.
Exactly.
It's funny how the mind works.
Right. Now you were also pre-diabetic as well.
Never officially diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I was there, man.
I'm
I
the
don't
same
see
way.
how I can't see how I wasn't, given
Right.
the diet that I was eating.
Yeah. Every time I went to the doctor, this was after I got healthier. My blood sugar was fine, but I know prior to that, because it was years before I went to the doctor, it had to be through the roof. I mean, we both
Hmm.
were eating excessive amount of calories. I can't imagine being good.
For sure,
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
did you do a lot of fad diets over the years before the one that stuck?
Oh yeah, you name it. I did it. I did programs that are known very well. I did programs that nobody's even heard of before. Did a couple where I lost a significant amount of weight. One of which I can't even remember the name of it, but it was a program actually my mom she was doing at the same time, and so I just kind of signed up for it in solidarity with her, hoping that it would motivate her. I was more concerned about her than I was myself, even though I was way more overweight than she was. And it was just one of those plans where you get the gym membership and they give you a whole lot of
Yeah.
prepackaged food. You don't even have to, like, here's the scary part. You didn't even have to refrigerate this food. You could just stick it in the microwave, years after it's been made, and there
Right.
it is good to go. But like, I mean, we're talking about things like meatloaf that didn't need to be refrigerated, beans but not healthy beans, but just like nasty goop
Right. Right.
soaked beans with rice that you could put in there and
Probably
have it
packed with oil, I'm
lasagna.
sure. Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and so you think about that, like, really, food should be refrigerated. I'm not even talking about plant-based healthy eating. I mean, let's just talk about lay common sense here.
Exactly.
Food should be refrigerated. Food is meant to spoil.
For sure.
So anyway, that was a thing, and I did that. I lost like 50 pounds, and then as soon as you go off of that, that weight comes back on, and then some. Now, when I was with Big 100.3, this is my absolute favorite. I was one of those wacky morning sidekicks on the morning show there, and I was paid to endorse something called the cookie diet. And now here's the genius behind this gem. And by genius, I mean absolute stupidity. They are they designed this program so you eat a cookie for breakfast and a cookie for lunch, and you drink a whole lot of water with them. And it's supposed to essentially expand in your stomach and keep you full until dinner time. Now, these cookies did not taste like cookies. They tasted like the sponge that is on my kitchen sink downstairs right now, that just happened to have a little sprinkle of cinnamon and one raisin in them. And I don't remember them keeping me full
I'm
at
sure.
all. But the idea was you eat these and then a vaguely prescribed sensible dinner. They never told you exactly what a sensible dinner was, but
Right.
go ahead and eat that, and you should be good to go.
I'm sure the
Well,
ingredients were this long, right? For the cookie.
yeah, brother. I mean, I'm sure they were. I don't even know if this thing is still around. It literally is just called the cookie diet. I should look that up. I would love to know if this thing is
Yeah.
still around.
Yeah.
um but this is like good 14 years ago at this point. So I do lose weight with this, but here's what I didn't tell anybody at the time, because I was being paid to endorse it. I had to say that I was obliging by the rules. Well, the reality was I was not. I was so addicted to fast food that I was still sneaking out in the middle of the night to go get it. So here's the thing, right? So for the first couple of days, I tried really hard to stick to this and adhere to it because I did want to, say the truth when I was giving my endorsements. But the first day without fast food, I started to feel a little bit sick and agitated a little bit. The second day, I felt like I had a case of the flu coming on. And I was really angry. It was like a switch had been flipped. We're talking like a Jekyll and Hyde type of situation. And this is just after 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I was like so angry because I had not put that stuff in my system that I got up feeling sick as a dog. I got up from my bed and I punched my fist through a wall. And
Wow.
then when that didn't calm me down, I punched my fist through a door. I was so angry, like it scared my brother who I was living with at the time, right? And so after he goes to bed, this is the day that I finally realized, like, wow, I do have a serious food addiction here, but I was not ready to tackle it.
Yeah.
After he went to bed, I snuck out in the middle of the night out the back of the house and drove to the 24-hour Taco Bell, got my fix, and then came home and gorged on all $20 worth of food that was in that bag. And I remember just sobbing, like tears were just streaming down my face as I was eating this, especially with that first bite. I felt this rush of calmness wash over me. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, man, I bet this is how a heroin addict feels when they, go back to using after they've been off of it for a length of time.
Yeah, it
I
truly is
bet you the
addictive.
feeling is exactly the same. It was,
Yeah,
yeah,
it really is
it
addictive.
was equal
Especially,
parts
you're
sadness
probably having the
and
cheese and
relief.
everything, which is, like a drug in itself. And all those foods they're so addictive. They design it that way.
Mm, yeah. And I had no idea how addictive they were until, yeah, honestly, it was just a few years ago and doing the exam room with the physicians committee that I became aware of all of the addictive properties and how the food scientists are actually employed to make this food as addictive as possible, and all of the multi-million-dollar campaigns that go into marketing and making you crave it when you watch TV or turn on the radio or scroll
Oh, I
through
know.
Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, yeah, it's everywhere. If you turn on the TV, guaranteed you'll see a fast food ad within probably 5 minutes.
Quite,
Yeah.
no question about it, my friend.
Yeah. So when you finally stuck with a diet that helped you lose weight, you weren't plant-based right away. I heard you say that before, right?
No,
Yeah.
I
You just cut back on calories. Is that what worked?
so here's the thing, man. Like I got super freaking desperate when I thought that I was going to die and not reach my 30s. And I actually, went and after 6 months, after a 6-month battle, I actually like went and I had weight loss surgery. Um,
Oh, you did. I didn't realize it.
I did. Yeah, a lot of people,
Was it
you know,
gastric bypass or?
it was, but here's the thing, the failure rate for weight loss surgery is comparable to nearly every diet out there. This is people think that it's a quick fix solution,
Yeah,
and
I've heard that.
in the short term, it absolutely is. But I will never put anybody down who has had weight loss surgery and has
Oh,
been
I
able
wouldn't
to
either.
successfully, keep that weight off long term. Because as as anybody knows who's been successful keeping the weight off long term, it's about a lifestyle adjustment. If you
Right.
go right back to your eating habits, right back to the way that you were, of course you're going to put weight back on. Of course you're going to be back
Yeah, because you didn't do
that
the
unhealthy
lifestyle
version.
change. Right.
Right, man. On every diet, people come to this crossroads. They've been successful for so long, and here's where they get slipped up. They think that, oh, well, I can reintroduce this and I can have a little bit and I'll be okay. Well, that is what I call the diet fork in the road. And that is where you can go right and you can indulge in those foods. And by going right, you go right back to the way that you
Yep,
were,
exactly.
or you can go left and continue on this healthier path. And
Right.
so it's so critical that people realize those moments when you're tempted to indulge and reintroduce those foods into your system. And maybe you've even been told by your doctors and dietitians that it's okay to reintroduce those foods in
Right.
moderation.
Yeah.
The problem is the doctors, the dietitians who are giving that advice, especially with people who are super morbidly obese, they don't realize the addiction component of it.
Exactly.
They would not tell an ex-smoker to pick up a cigarette, light one up, you'll be okay. They wouldn't say that to an alcoholic to crack open a beer. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way. But I swear to you, one day my surgeon, after I had lost a lot of weight, told me it was time for me to eat a hamburger. I was so
Yeah.
far from being vegan at that point, it
Oh, I know.
wasn't even funny, wasn't even on my radar, but I knew, I was like, there is no freaking way that
Right,
that is a
exactly.
good idea.
Yeah.
There is no way that that's a good idea.
Right.
So,
So, but did you gain weight after that weight loss surgery, or did it?
uh, no, except for 10 pounds because of a bad relationship. And well, we've all been there. But by and large, no, I never wound up putting the weight back on. There have been people close to me who have had the surgery and gained it all back and
I
then
know some
some.
people as well. Yeah.
Quite a few people. I think that, the overall failure rate, the longer you get out, is somewhere in the high 70s to mid 80s
Mm.
for any weight loss procedure. So
Was that a
that's
tough decision? Because for me, I ultimately had a tummy tuck, and I waited 5 years. It was really a tough decision because, I did all this work without surgery, but I have no regrets about it. But I'm just wondering, did you put a lot of thought into surgery before you did it, or?
No, I thought that surgery was kind of my last ditch effort. And after that, I would be able to go to the grave basically saying that I had tried everything.
Mhm.
So that was my thought. I'd been encouraged to do it by people close to me who had it. And I just thought, well, this is going to get me to 30, maybe 40 if I'm lucky. And then that's all she wrote. I was not expecting at all to go on this crazy health journey
I'm
that
sure.
it's become over the last 10 years. But you know uh, I did not really weigh the pros and the cons. I was in panic mode. I just wanted it off, and I wanted the weight off right then and right there. So that's why I went that route.
Right. And I'm sure, because I hear that a lot of people who have the surgery, their diabetes reverse, and I'm sure your numbers look great after that. After the
Yeah.
surgery.
Yeah, my surgeon, they do check you pretty regularly. Your blood work, make sure that you're getting everything, including your blood sugar and everything that goes with that. So that all definitely improves, but you can go back to having insulin resistance, after you have the surgery if you continue eating that high fat diet. Like
Exactly.
essentially, nothing changes. So in the case of gastric bypass, yeah, okay, so you're always going to have a little portion of yourself that's rerouted or bypassed, as it were. But the stomach, does not stay the size of a thumb as it is immediately
Yeah,
after
and
surgery.
some, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the stomach is like a balloon, man. You can put that thing almost back to where it was in the first place. And
Right.
we're talking like ridiculous amounts of food in there if you really want to work on that. So that's something that also gets overlooked. And so I really don't care what route you take, man. It's really about making sure that it's a lifestyle
Oh, I
change, and
agree.
you
Totally agree.
you not you not reintroduce those unhealthy foods
Absolutely.
into your system,
Absolutely.
man. Just can't do it.
So, what made you go plant based along your journey?
I was doing an interview for CBS with a professional wrestler by the name of Austin Aries, and he was promoting a new book that he called his Plant Powered Journey to the Top of the Wrestling World. And And he was like, man, I know that you're into health and nutrition, and I was,
Yeah.
I just was doing that standard healthy eating thing, eating a lot of fruits and vegetables and kimchi, but definitely still doing a lot of dairy and things like that. But anyway, he told me that I should look at this, and he gave me a list of documentaries, and so I watched them, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because at that point, for me, yeah, it was still about keeping the weight off and weight loss and being healthy in that arena. But then when I realized that there was this whole other side of it
Yeah.
that a plant-based diet could provide, like I just felt this switch flip inside of me because I didn't know that I could reduce my risk of Alzheimer's, which runs rampant in my family. And I'm
Yeah.
petrified
Amazing.
that
Yeah.
I'll develop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with cancer. And so, and heart disease. I didn't even get a chance to meet my grandfather on my father's side because he died
Yep.
before I was born after a series of heart attacks. I didn't want that for myself. So now, being armed with this information, I was like, holy Moses, like jackpot.
Yeah.
And so I just dive all in and I start learning more and more as much as I possibly could about it. And the interesting thing was I was around 155, 156 at that point
Yeah.
in terms of weight. And then after I went plant-based, man, that weight got sucked all the way down to 140. I didn't even realize I was still carrying around,
Right.
15 pounds of baby fat on me.
Right.
But sure enough, I was.
Now, what's your height?
5'5" on a good day, man. So don't worry about that low weight total.
Yeah.
So at my heaviest, I was 5'5" and 420 pounds with a
That's incredible.
66-inch waist and a size 6XL shirt. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and it makes me feel like mine was wasn't that bad because my waist size is like 44. I'm down to like 32 now, but
Good man.
6, I can't imagine.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's just because
that's a
I
lot
was
of
short. If
very
I was taller and 420, I'm sure I would have had a smaller waist too. Okay.
that's a lot to carry around though. Yeah.
It was, man. Believe you me, it very much was. You
So
don't realize it at the time.
what was the first documentary you remember watching? Was it Forks Over Knives?
It was What the Health is the first one that really stuck with me, and
That one
then
had
there
a big
was
impact for me too.
yeah, and then there was Forks Over Knives. More recently, The Game Changers. But What the Health was the one that Austin was like, man, that's the one you really need to watch and watch as soon as we hang up the phone.
Yeah.
And I did, and I hadn't been married very long at that point. And I remember after I watched it, going to my wife that night, and I was like, honey, I'm going to go vegan. And she got pissed, man. Excuse my
Yeah.
language, but she got upset. She was like, what? You're already the healthiest eater I know. What the bleepity bleep? You are absolutely insane right now. Why in the world do you think that you need to do that? And I was like, well, settle your tea kettle, right? Let's go watch this together. And so we sat down and we watched What the Health together, and she was like, oh my
Now
God. She had the same reaction that I did,
yeah,
and that was it, man. That was
it's a
it.
really powerful movie. That woke me up too.
Oh yeah, big time, man. Big time. So she's been plant-based now as long as I have.
Right. Now, for me, I eventually became an ethical vegan, which helped me not cheat off my plant-based diet as well. Because now, before then, maybe I would cheat every now and then. But now it's like I'm so strict. I don't want to have anything with animal products. I'm wondering, did you become an ethical vegan as well?
I think it's impossible not to.
Exactly. Yeah.
People go vegan for one of three reasons. It's either their health, the environment, or for animals, and that's
Right.
their entry point. But inevitably, you get tied up into all three as you begin to learn more
Yeah,
and
it's
more
hard not
about it.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. And my wife and I are big animal lovers and big supporters of animal rights. So yeah, that's a huge component of it now as well.
Right. Now, do you work out several days a week, or what's your exercise routine like now?
Oh, it's pretty simple. I mean, with COVID, it's basically just, going out for walks or running the stairs here. I've got a little stationary bike that I use. I never really put a whole heap of focus into the workout side of things. I wanted to be what I would consider naturally fit, because every failed diet that I had up until this point, I had a gym membership for. And
Hmm.
so I just associated going to the gym with failed diet. And I did not want to fail. I've been on a roll. And so all I did throughout my entire weight loss journey was walk. And at
Yeah.
first I could only walk across the street. And so I did. And at the time, there was a park right across the street from my office. And I would sit down at the bench there and I would just stare out at the ball fields for, about half an hour and then catch my breath and go back. Then I was able to walk around the block, and then it became 2 blocks and 3, eventually a mile. And then it got up to 5 miles a day. I got so devoted to just walking 5 miles a day on my lunch break that my boss was like, you know what? You can take an extra half hour here
Ah,
at lunch and then make it up on the back end of the day. And so that way, I never had to even worry about trying to work out when I was already
nice.
tired from a full day's work. And so I've kind of carried that philosophy with me this entire time. And now it boils down to, just making sure that you take stairs instead of the
Right,
elevator,
right.
and, just walk around, just get up and walk around. Like when you're going to work and you're not in this crazy COVID situation, just use the restroom on a different floor. It's all of
Exactly.
those little things. It's all of those little things that you dismiss when you're overweight. But I'm telling you, it is also those little things that make such a big difference in maintaining that weight loss over time.
You know what worked for me is this Apple Watch. It is such a
Ah,
huge motivator because it reminds me to stand up every hour. I have a desk job, and I don't know where I'd be without it. With the
oh
reminder,
yeah,
it's a great thing. And I
yeah.
originally started with a cheap little pedometer, but the big thing for me was always getting over 10,000 steps a day, which I still do. That's like a target for me. So you probably do
Absolutely.
something similar, right? With 5 miles a day. That's probably 10.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny. There are days when I'll look down at my phone and I'll be like, "Oh, dag on it, I'm only at what,
Yeah, the same way.
998.
Yeah,
I got 12 more steps
yeah,
before I get to get to 10,000, and it's 11:59. All
yeah.
right, let me
That's
walk
the
around the
same
living
way.
room."
The same way. Yeah, yeah. Last night, actually, for me, it was like I had like 9,500 steps. I got to get walking. It's like 11
Yep.
o'clock, and I did
Yep.
it. No,
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you got to keep up with that. Whatever it takes to keep you motivated and in that mindset. I think that once you break yourself of that cycle and you say, I can just do 9,500 a day. Well, then you have an excuse to do
yeah,
9,500 the next
exactly.
day. And it's the
Exactly.
same kind of mentality that we were talking about as far as not eating unhealthy foods. And, you can't have just one, thing from Taco Bell and think that you're not going to go back to eating the way that you were. So,
Yeah, you
stay
bring
that
up
healthy
a
course.
question I had in mind. I always say that when people say everything in moderation, I'm wondering what you think about that.
Okay. So here's where I get into a little bit of trouble with people. They tend not to like my answer. I loathe everything in moderation philosophy when it comes to health.
Yeah,
I don't. I just, it does not make sense to me
me
for the
too.
way that I am wired. I am not a moderation guy. I never have been.
Yeah,
That's just.
I think because we're both addictive with food. I mean, that addiction, you can't just do one thing.
Oh
Turns into
no,
a
no,
habit.
no, no.
Yeah,
Yeah, when I was, smoking, I would smoke 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. When I was smoking cigars, I would smoke 5 of them a day, and that's a commitment. When I was eating, it was 10,000 calories a day. I would never consider myself an alcoholic, but when I would drink, man, I was drinking quite a bit. Same thing with smoking marijuana when I was much younger. I wasn't just smoking it recreationally on the weekend. I was lighting up 5 and 6 times a day, all day. And that was, that's scary. That's just the way that I'm wired. So this notion, everything in moderation, including moderation, that's for the birds, man. That's not for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I totally agree. Um, you heard Dr. Greger's expression about if you hit your shin, it will heal, but if you keep hitting it, it's gonna never heal. You have to
Yep,
stick with the program. Now, is there
absolutely, 100%.
any plant-based doctors that you follow more than others, or do you pretty much follow all of them?
I like to keep my ear to the ground and follow a little bit of everybody. Obviously, I'm very heavily plugged in with the physicians committee, so
Right,
anything that's happening there, I'm kind of right on top of. Gregor's a lot of fun, but getting the opportunity also to just interview, people who you may not even heard of yet, like Dr. Shivam Joshi up in New York is a phenomenal guy. Um, Alan Desmond, interviewed him just yesterday. He's pretty well known, gastroenterologist over in the UK, phenomenal human being as well. Just having a relationship with those guys and being able to talk to them and just seeing what research they're talking about, it's a little bit of everything. It
right.
really is.
Yeah, I have so much admiration for all of them. I mean, and in a way, they've all helped me with different approaches. From
For
Dr.
sure.
Barnard to Dr. Greger to Dr. Furman, I think they all play a vital role in our transformation stories.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that you're doing yourself a disservice if you only limit your resources to a select few.
Yeah,
There's so much information out there that is being reported upon and studied, and it's impossible for one person to just know everything. So we do. The cool thing about the internet is, like, we have the whole world at our fingertips, and all of these studies that are being talked about, they're right there.
right,
So tap into as many resources as you possibly can. Just make sure that you vet them, vet
right.
the vet
Yeah,
those studies,
that's
man.
true. One final question I have: how are you and your family dealing with COVID? How's your town doing? Are you
So
is everybody pretty
yeah.
much staying safe where you live?
Yeah, the family's doing pretty well. Nobody has tested positive, luckily. Living in the Washington D.C. area, we did see a little bit of a lull in the number of cases. We were very slow to reopen around here, but now we're starting to see things tick back in the wrong direction, and so that's a little bit concerning. But that's just as it is around the rest of the country and around the rest of the world. So just doing the best that we can to stay healthy. But I encourage everybody to do the same and not let politics get involved
Oh, for sure.
uh, of you making healthy decisions.
Right.
And I'm
I,
just going
I'm
to leave it at
fortunate. I
that.
live in Connecticut. We've been doing very well. We've had a high number of cases, but we successfully lowered the curve, and I think we're one of the few states that is doing pretty well.
Fantastic.
We
I'm
wish
happy to
that
hear
for
that.
you and everybody else in the world.
Yeah. Amen, my friend.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for joining us. I really enjoyed your story. I knew from hearing some of your story in the past that it parallels a lot of my story. You know, like I told you before, it brought back some memories of the past that probably things I'd like to forget. But you learn from it. And
Yeah.
anyway, thank you. And I know a lot of people get a lot out of this.
Well, thank you, my friend, and congratulations to you for all your success.
Okay, thank you. Yep, talk to you later.
All right, buddy.